There's a photograph from 1958 that shows something remarkable. It's inside a maximum security prison gymnasium. Jack LaLanne is standing among 2,000 inmates, convicted felons, violent offenders, men who had been written off by society as lost causes, and they're exercising. Not reluctantly, not under force, but with genuine engagement and intensity. This is the story that's been almost completely erased from Jack LaLanne's popular legacy. This is the time he walked into one of America's most dangerous correctional institutions and proved something that challenged not just the prison system, but fundamental assumptions about human nature and human potential. This is the prison experiment that changed 2,000 lives. In the mid-1950s, the American prison system was in crisis. Overcrowding, violence, recidivism rates that were catastrophic. Men went to prison, were released, and returned to prison. The system wasn't rehabilitating anyone. It was just warehousing people. Prison administrators were desperate for solutions. And somehow, word reached them about Jack LaLanne and his radical ideas about the human body. The theory was simple. If fitness and discipline could transform ordinary people, what could it do for people who had been convicted of crimes? What if physical discipline could somehow translate into behavioral discipline? The idea was unconventional. Prison authorities were skeptical. Why would hardened criminals, men with histories of violence and poor decision-making, respond to fitness instruction? Why would lifting weights and doing exercises change criminal behavior? But Jack LaLanne decided to try. He offered to come into the prison and implement a comprehensive program. No charge, just a chance to prove his theory. The response from the prison administration was cautiously supportive. But the response from the guards and some officials was skeptical and even hostile. This wasn't a fitness center. This was a maximum security prison housing some of the most dangerous men in the state. The idea that exercise could somehow improve their behavior seemed naive at best and dangerous at worst. Jack went in anyway. What happened in those first weeks was transformative in ways that nobody expected. When Jack started the program, many inmates were hostile. Why should they listen to some fitness guy? Why should they participate in exercises? For some, it felt like another authority figure trying to control them. For others, it felt pointless. They were in prison, their lives were essentially over, so why bother? But Jack had something that most prison authorities didn't have. He had conviction. He believed in these men in a way that they had stopped believing in themselves. He started with the basics: bodyweight exercises, push-ups, squats, movements that required nothing but a body and the will to do them, and he demonstrated alongside them. He did the exercises with them. He showed them that these simple movements could be transformative. But more importantly, he talked to them. He explained, in terms they could understand, what was actually happening in their bodies when they exercised. He explained how the physical changes, building strength, improving cardiovascular fitness, increasing endurance, were connected to psychological changes. How discipline in training created discipline in life. How proving to yourself that your body could change created a belief that other things could change too. The breakthrough came gradually. The first inmates who engaged seriously with the program started to show immediate results. Not just physical results, though those were dramatic. Men who had been sedentary in prison, spending most of their time in cells or in the yard, suddenly had improved muscle tone. Better cardiovascular fitness, increased energy. But the psychological results were more dramatic. Men who had been depressed started to show engagement. Men who had been angry and hostile started to show focus and purpose. Men who had written themselves off as failures started to experience success. Every push-up completed was a success. Every improvement in fitness was measurable evidence that change was possible. Word spread through the prison. Other inmates saw the changes in their peers, and they wanted to participate. Within weeks, what had started as a small program with skeptical participants became something much larger. Thousands of inmates wanted to be part of the fitness program. This created a problem for the prison administration. They didn't have the facilities to accommodate 2,000 inmates in a comprehensive fitness program. They didn't have the equipment or the trainers, but they couldn't deny participation to men who genuinely wanted it. Jack's solution was elegant. He taught the inmates to teach each other. The men who had been in the program first became trainers for newer participants. The program spread organically through inmate-to-inmate instruction. By the end of the first year, 2,000 inmates were participating in some form of fitness training. And something remarkable happened. Behavior in the prison changed. Violence decreased. Compliance increased. The overall atmosphere shifted. Prison administrators noticed it. Guards noticed it. Even the skeptics couldn't deny the change. Now, the question is, why did this work? What is it about fitness and physical discipline that could transform not just an individual body, but an entire prison ecosystem? Part of it is straightforward. Men who are physically engaged have less time and energy for violence and conflict. Men who are focused on physical improvement have a constructive outlet for aggressive impulses. Men who are training have purpose, but there's something deeper happening as well. There's a psychological transformation that occurs when someone takes control of their body in a way they've never done before. For many of these men, their entire lives had been characterized by loss of control. They'd made bad decisions. They'd committed crimes. They'd been caught and incarcerated. Their autonomy had been completely stripped away. But in the gymnasium, they had agency. They could choose to do a push-up. They could choose to push harder. They could choose to show up the next day and try again. They could choose to improve. And with each choice, with each success, something shifted internally. They weren't just building muscle. They were rebuilding their sense of self as someone capable of change and improvement. Jack understood this intuitively. He wasn't just teaching fitness. He was teaching the philosophy that underlies his entire approach. The human body responds to demand by becoming stronger. And by extension, the human spirit responds to challenge by becoming more resilient. The recidivism data was striking. For inmates who participated in Jack's program, recidivism rates dropped significantly compared to the general prison population. Men who completed the program were less likely to return to prison, less likely to reoffend, less likely to fall back into the same patterns that had led them to incarceration in the first place. This wasn't because they became fitness enthusiasts. It was because the experience of taking control of their physical selves created a belief that they could take control of other aspects of their lives. It created hope. It created a sense that change was possible. One particularly moving aspect of the program was what Jack called the conversation. After physical training, he would sit with inmates and talk, not lecture. Talk. He'd explain how the discipline they were learning in the gymnasium could transfer to other areas, how showing up every day was a habit that could apply to a job, how pushing yourself to do one more repetition was a mindset that could apply to overcoming challenges. These weren't just abstract ideas. They were practical wisdom delivered by someone who genuinely cared about these men's futures. The prison administration saw the value immediately. They wanted to expand the program. They wanted to make it permanent. They wanted to implement it across multiple facilities. But here's where the story takes a darker turn. Support for the program started to wane. Why? Part of it was simple institutional inertia. The prison system wasn't built to support rehabilitation. It was built to contain and punish. A program that actually rehabilitated people was, in some ways, threatening to the system that existed. there were also subtle pressures from various directions. Philosophical opposition to the idea that prisoners could be reformed, budget constraints that made maintaining the program difficult, skeptics who argued that the results were anomalies or due to other factors. By the early 1960s, the prison program had largely been discontinued or drastically reduced. It didn't disappear entirely, but it never achieved the scale or impact that it could have. A program that had demonstrably reduced recidivism, improved behavior, and transformed thousands of lives was essentially abandoned. This is particularly striking because if the data had been clear that a certain medication reduced recidivism and improved behavior in prisoners, the medical establishment would have promoted it widely. But because this was a non-pharmaceutical intervention, because it was about fitness and discipline rather than medication, it was easier to dismiss and suppress. Jack LaLanne never spoke much about this prison program publicly. When he did, it was mentioned almost in passing. He didn't use it as marketing. He didn't try to build a larger movement around it. He did the work because he believed it was important. And when the institutional support faded, he moved on to other projects. But the impact on those 2,000 men was permanent. Some became trainers themselves. Some carried the lessons they learned into their new lives outside prison. Some became advocates for rehabilitation-focused approaches to criminal justice. What makes this story particularly relevant today is that it demonstrates something that our criminal justice system still doesn't fully grasp. That rehabilitation is possible, that people are not fixed in their current trajectories, that, given the right intervention, in this case, physical discipline and the belief that change is possible, people can fundamentally transform. This isn't just about fitness. This is about human potential. This is about the power of someone believing in you when you've stopped believing in yourself. This is about the transformative power of taking control of something, your body, and using that control to build confidence that extends to other areas of life. Jack LaLanne didn't need to write books about this. He didn't need to create an elaborate program manual. He just went in, worked with the men, and showed them through his own example and genuine belief that change was possible. The fact that this program has been almost completely erased from his public legacy is interesting. It doesn't fit neatly into the fitness guru narrative. It's not about records or achievements. It's about something more fundamental: the power of human connection and the belief in human potential. But it's also deeply threatening to certain systems. A prison system that profits from incarceration doesn't want to acknowledge that rehabilitation is possible. A criminal justice system built on punishment rather than transformation wants to maintain the belief that people don't change. So the story gets forgotten. The 2,000 men who transformed their lives get forgotten. The program that proved that even in the most difficult circumstances, change is possible, that gets forgotten. But Jack LaLanne knew, his wife knew. The men who went through the program knew, and now you know. This is perhaps the most important part of Jack LaLanne's legacy. Not his television show, not his fitness methods, not his personal longevity, but his belief that every human being has the potential to transform themselves, and his willingness to walk into a maximum security prison and prove it. Now, if this story about Jack LaLanne's prison transformation program opened your eyes to what's possible in human rehabilitation and personal change, hit that like button. This message needs to reach people in the criminal justice system, people who've lost hope, people who've written themselves off as unchangeable. And if you want to see more of these untold stories from Jack LaLanne's life, subscribe and turn on notifications. Drop a comment below. Do you believe people can fundamentally change? Have you experienced transformation in your own life or helped someone else transform? What made the difference? I read every comment, and I want to hear your stories of change and transformation. If you know someone who's currently incarcerated, someone who's lost faith that their life can be different, someone struggling with the belief that they're beyond help, share this video with them. Share the proof that people can change. You could literally alter the trajectory of someone's entire life. The next video reveals the complete training protocol LaLanne developed specifically for the aging body, how he prepared people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s to perform feats that people in their 30s couldn't do. This is the anti-aging blueprint. Link in the description and card appearing now. One man's belief in human potential transformed 2,000 lives. Imagine what belief in yourself could do.